The current war is in Ukraine, but what about wars in the future? And what about the Navy? Well, in order to fight wars in the future, what are these wars likely to be? Well, China is going to be a major threat. They're the most likely contestant for a war. Doesn't matter who starts it. Doesn't matter what the conditions of the war are. You need to prepare for a war. And in this war, island assaults could be very likely. Now, we don't know where this World War III is going to start, but Southeast Asia could be a potential location. So there could also be a war between Greece and Turkey. And there's lots of places on this planet where there's lots of islands. So in order to take these islands, you need to move troops, land on these islands. But these islands will likely have garrisons whose job is to defend the islands. And they're just not going to sit down waiting for the enemy to attack. They're going to dig trenches, fortifications, and get their island ready to be attacked. So when you do attack it, you're going to have to take pretty well defended positions. So you need to destroy those positions. But the problem is, a lot of islands, especially in Southeast Asia, have a lot of trees. So you've got dense jungles, forests, and bunkers hiding in these things. And of course, there may not be much foliage, but there could be well defensive positions, and it could be on the mainland and stuff. But long story short, you need a lot of firepower to destroy this stuff. And here's the thing. With the modern availability of missiles and stuff, and air defenses and stuff, carriers are not the only tool in your toolbox. They're a very useful tool, but they're not the only tool. You need big gun battleships. Because let's say you want to assault an island. You need a bombardment of that island. And with the invention of man-pads, and this island could have heaps of man-pads, so you can't fly aircraft at a low altitude. You need to fly them at a relatively high altitude in order to avoid the man-pads. And as we've seen in Ukraine, that makes you susceptible to air defenses. Which means, well, your aircraft are going to be shot down. And, well, that's not a price you're willing to take for a tiny little island. Or it could be a big island, so you're willing to take those prices. But then again, the aircraft aren't guaranteed to destroy the target. And if a whole bunch of aircraft are attacking, that's a pretty obvious sign that attack's going to happen in the island soon. So they're going to send in their air forces, and all of a sudden you've got yourself in a big conundrum. That's why you need the big gun battleship. Because that can bombard the targets and stuff. But you're thinking anti-ship missiles, aircraft and stuff. That's where you got to get the speed in the battleship. A fast battleship, let's say you can get a battleship up to 40 knots. 40 knots is pretty quick. So you could have an island, two islands 50 kilometers apart, and you want to take this island 50 kilometers away. So you bombard this island with the big gun battleship, and you want to get in close with the big gun battleship. Now, what guns do you put on your big gun battleship? Well, I think you can either have a 12-inch or a 20-inch. Well, I think a 12-inch quick-firing gun. Don't know how fast you can get it, but imagine 4 twin turrets of 16-inch guns firing at an island. Let's say, I don't know, these guns can fire a 20-inch shell, I don't know, like in 10 seconds per gun. So that's 5 seconds per gun. So if you like have one gun fire on a turret, then 5 seconds later the other gun fires, then 5 seconds later. So that's almost one 12-inch gun every second. Imagine you're a defender on this island, and let's say these shells are laser guided or GPS guided, because you can also have drones, cheap drones you can afford to lose, guiding the shells in accurately. So all of a sudden you could only be firing for a minute. So battleship goes out at high speeds, fires shells for a minute, then quickly gets back behind the island, which can have air defenses on it, and that can act as good air defense. So the aircraft battleship can be in relatively safety. All of a sudden, a potential landing spot could just be obliterated. So let's say there's a town which you think will be hard to take. This town will just be completely obliterated, and by the time the enemy goes in, and because remember, it's not just like they can always see things. This battleship could be firing. Realistically, in certain circumstances, the battleship could be away from cover for 20 minutes or an hour. If you can keep this battleship time outside in front of the potential air defense islands down to less than an hour, all of a sudden the enemy has less than an hour to strike the ship. Yes, they can strike it if it's hiding behind the island, but if you make the battleship nuclear, it can just constantly be moving around and stuff, in covering stuff, and then after constantly moving it, pretty much it's a war zone. The Moskva only sunk because like the crews weren't paying attention and stuff, and pretty much, yeah, you get the general idea. The battleship is a useful tactical operational thing.